Hello everybody, it's Amiga Rob here, and today we're going to be looking at Amiga Format Coverdisk number 31. Now, when I decided to do this Coverdisk about 10 minutes ago, the first thing I thought was, I'll do the Knightmare demo Coverdisk, and I knew straight away off the top of my head it was Coverdisk number 31 because we were in the middle of probably, I think, the best era for Amiga Format, where the cover discs were great, the coverage was great in the magazine, the content was great. It was really good, happy medium between games coverage and productivity coverage. There was a lot of productivity stuff out there, hardware and stuff coming out. We were well into the 1 meg era now. It was, I'd say, probably through the early part of 1991, we'd switched to the 1 meg standard. Really, Amigas had gone from with the standard Amigas were coming out of 512k. Very often people were expanding in the first few months. A lot of Amigas by the end of the year were coming with 512k expansions, and the 500 plus had a meg chip RAM standard. So we were well and truly in the 1 meg era, and the games had jumped up in quality as a result. But people were buying more expansions. We were at a peak in terms of productivity software coming out, and games were coming out every month. They had tons to review, so it was a really great magazine. There was something interesting, and they had something to talk about every month, which is crazy, really, because it was 6 years after the platform had launched. There hadn't really been any major leaps forwards in the technology. Some quite interesting revisions and stuff, but it was only now that the sort of hardware, enough people were buying the hardware at an affordable price to actually really start exploiting it. And yeah, so I'd say probably from around the back end of 1991 through we were starting to see the content on the cover discs really improve, and you were able to do some really interesting things, or try out some interesting things with what was on the discs. And this was quite a good disc. Not brilliant, but it had a good blend of game demos. Doody I don't remember, so we'll give that a try. I think that might be a complete game as well. It's probably a PD game. It must be, because we've got documents there. We've got pick of the month, we've got pick saver utility, so that useful utility, virus checker, which I think that went straight onto my workbench disk. Sysinfo, a couple of interesting things there, which was a good pick actually with the 500 plus coming out. People had lots of different systems, so we'll have a look and talk about that a little bit later. But let's go straight for Knightmare and get that loaded. So yeah, it was a really good run. I think they started going probably from that. The last one I did was I looked at was 27 with the which was all PD games, and some might see that as a low point, but I thought that was quite a good themed release. That I did like that disc. And the other thing is, this was the January 92 edition, and the January 91 edition I didn't think was particularly strong. It looked a bit gaudy, it was all pinkish. The demo on there is rubbish, and I'm going to do that at one point, and there was a big glitch well, not a glitch, it didn't work very well on 512k. Did some live swapping from a floppy disk. Well, not swapping, loaded a lot of stuff straight from floppy disk. But yeah, this was a good first edition for the year, catching people who got Amigas for Christmas and trying to show them some of the things they could do. Now, this was based on Knightmare. This is the children's TV game, and apparently oh, hang on, what's that? A tree type creature. There's Tragar there. So Knightmare was actually a kids' TV show in the 80s through to the early 90s, mid 90s, produced by Anglia TV, and it was really a quality program. And what would happen is you'd get you'd have a team of 4, and one kid would have to wear this helmet so they couldn't see anything, and the other kids would be watching this kid go through these virtual dungeons, which were all blue screen and green screen generated, whatever, probably blue screen in those days, dynamically with computers. So you'd have computer generated backgrounds. Sometimes they were partly matte drawings. Sometimes there were drawings matted into it. But you had this kind of, it was this kind of virtual world, and the kids would walk around in this world and meet actors, various characters who would challenge them, and you had to, the challenge was to get out of the dungeon. It was really good, and there's nothing really like it. Ashens was part of a recreation of it. Oops, don't walk into walls because it hurts you. Ashens was part of a recreation of it a few years ago for I think it was a YouTube special on it. And they did repeat an issue on the CITV, Children's ITV as I like to call it, special a few years ago. But it was a very good show, but completely different to this game. This game is based, I think, on the Captive engine. What do I do here? Right. Welcome to your Knightmare mag demo. So they didn't even know what magazine it was going to be on. This actually does look like Tragar, who the actor's name I can't recall. Welcome to your Knightmare mag demo. Oh, that's all he's going to say. Okay. So this first thing, this is unusual because there's 4 people who can potentially go in the dungeon. I don't know if... Oh, this is like a life each of these, I think. Or are they... Can I move the helmet? Oh, right. So if you go this way, you're putting... and each person's got a knapsack. So what you would have to do normally is you'd have a knapsack, and as time went on, your food levels would run down, and you'd have to find food in the dungeons. On the TV show this is, and you'd get a little skull appear in the corner to remind you. Well, first of all, it was like a knight's head with the helmet on, and then bits would fall off, and bits of his face would fall off, and eventually just be skull and bones. And you had to get the food in the knapsack. I mean, that must have been a complete contrivance because these things would take hours to film on TV. So I would guess that that was just pot luck whether or not you survived that. I think we're going to have a talk. All right, don't walk. Is the tree attacking me or what? Get dressed. I only push forward once. Get dressed and then go and play No Magic. Go and play No Magic in this demo. Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Right, what have I got here? Okay, I'm really not... Right. Shorts, okay. Skirts, okay. Skirts. Maybe I'll need to... I mean, I don't know if you're meant to... No, that just puts the helmet on. Hey. I don't understand what's going on here. Anyway. I've got all these clothes. I know not what I'm meant to do with them. I know I've not got space to put these things on, so I could put them on the floor. It seems like a bit of a pointless part of the game. I mean, this didn't used to happen in the TV show. That looks more important to me. Pen knives. How do you put these things on? I'll get rid of these shorts. Looks like all the objects have got about 3 colours allocated to them. So yeah, this is nothing like the TV show. Got to be honest. TV show was different to this, and I think a game based on the actual. I mean, they've taken the engine for Captive and they've just. Hang on, do I use that with that? No, don't know. I'm probably doing this wrong. We'll see what happens. Do you right click on these things? Aha, right, okay. So if you right click, then you can go browse, good, And then, right, so he's got a penknife rat, the thinker. Interesting, you've got actual workbench type mimicking dialogues there. Click on that. Alright, don't need a t-shirt for him, he's already wearing a blouse or whatever it is I've given him. This is boring. This is really boring. I remember thinking this demo's great, this is wonderful. But it isn't really. I'm hoping Doody is decent. But anyway, we'll see. This unnecessary bore. I mean, I guess in days of old we used to be like, wow, this is great. You've got things to do. You've got to put clothes on them. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, they used to sell this stuff to us. How have I still got a blouse? Have I got all the clothes there? Have I done everything? Oh, of course. It seems like you walk in a group of 4 as well. Wherever you go. Right. Because whoever goes into the wall mashes themselves. Right, this is something that I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Right, this could be where it all goes wrong. Right, here's a bloke. He's coming to attack me. Oh dear. Nothing happens. How do I attack him? Alright, let's try this then. There we go. Right. Better pick those up again, is that? That's pretty rubbish. Is he not going to let me pick up the arrow? Surely I can pick. Well, that's it. Arrows are one use apparently, even then you've got them. Keep that handy, old 3-prong knife. So yeah, nobody ever attacked you in the pad of movement. Everything seems to have a kind of innuendo going on with it. Oh. The lakes of joy, do not step in the water. See, they used to have a thing, spell casting. Ah, there we go, I can pick those arrows up. You just have to be going in the right direction, obviously. I wonder if they use a different font for each time you do this. Now, these days, this game would be a first-person shooter. In fact, within a couple, well, I say first-person, that kind of thing. Let's make sure we're tooled up here. Can't really see what's going on. Sidestep. They sidestep to the left. They used to have to, because they were blind from the thing. They used to have to, from the helmet. They used to have to guide them everywhere. I only need a key for in there. See? Go and find the key. Thanks, Tragar. Go and find the key. And at one point they had another guy. So the other guy, the guys that are guiding them are in the studio, watching them on a TV. And at one point they had a sidekick there called Piccolo who came in. He was a bit of a winning little chap, really. This thing where you get injured walking into walls is ridiculous. What's this here? Oh, I think I've just walked into the wall again. Not been through this one yet. Oh, right, I'm not supposed to walk into that, am I? There's a little sharky here, there's a little sharky, hello little sharky. Hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's give him you want to go then, dear? Come on, sharky. Right, okay, you can't attack the shark. Shark gets you. Right, don't know what I'm supposed to do here, so I I think there's, if I recall, we can just bomb it down here. Don't walk into the wall. What do I do here then? Is there something important to do? Oh yeah, don't walk into the wall, he says. Bits of blood on the wall and everything. Lovely. Oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. Is there something in the bush or something? What am I looking for? This sort of thing just bores me. Ah, hang on. I think I found what I'm looking for. Oh. Ah, get out of it. Get out of it. Uh-oh, I've just lost someone. I've lost 2 people. Spell casted. F-U-C. No. Have I just come back to where I was? Or is this a different place? Oh, hello. Here's Tragar again. Step inside. Oh. Oh, yeah, because they used to have like portal things that would take you to different levels. Although I don't think I've gone to a different level. I mean, that might as well have just been a door as well. I think I've just switched something. There's a door there. Is that a door? Oh, it's confusing, right? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, here comes someone looking for a fight. I've just thrown a sword at him. Why can't I just slash this in? Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Back off, back away, back away. Charge! Oh, hurt myself. Almost critically walking into the wall. These guys are not in the TV series. I'm sure there's a way to... No, no, no. Why do they have to always throw everything? Oh, no. Oh, that's it. Blimey, it crashes when you... Oh, that's great. So they obviously hadn't wrote the code for what happens when you lose. Anyway, that's Knightmare. That's interesting. If you want to check that out, you can go to the Amiga magazine rack. They've got the demo there on Amiga Format. Amiga Format 31, he says, after he made a big thing about knowing what magazine it was. Let's have a look at the picture of the month while we're here. Well, that's funny. I don't really... Oh, I vaguely remember this one. Looks like some kind of scan or something, and somebody's gone with the smudge tool in Jacques Paint to... This is a bit weird, this one. The kind of worm thing. They've done this, and they made a brush and they sort of copied it a few times. Yeah, well, it's interesting. Sort of looks slightly scanned and smudged and interesting. Okay. Shall we read the manual for Doody? Let's try Doody first. Why read the manual? Reading the manual is such a lame thing to do. We'll find out all about Doody. It's a platform game. Oh, that's nice. It's got a fade out there. We shall find out all about Doody. Okay, that was weird. Maybe we do need to read the manual. Oh, there we go. Paul's going. Intrepid dudes have fallen down the sewer, would you believe? 32 levels of sewer, in fact. So let's use guide them back to the street level. The only problem being inhabitants aren't too happy about the dudes. Okay, the inhabitants green turtles. This sounds like it might be fun if we can get it to work. Okay. Okay, let's try it then. Try it again, see if we work this time. Fades out. Are we going to have luck this time? Oh, it needs 1 meg chip. I do remember this game now. It's weird. Let's try. Okay, round 1. I sort of remember this game. Ah, yeah, I do remember this one. Oh, yeah, this is like Super Mario Brothers. Like Mario, what do we call this? What's this game? It's Mario Brothers, isn't it? Controls are a little bit... Controls are very sluggish, actually. That might be my controller. Yeah, this isn't a bad game, I remember this one. Ooh. I'm really struggling with the controller here. There's a lot of inertia. I'm going to try switching the controller. Here we go. Let's try it again. See if we get a better reaction after. Yeah, it's a bit better. Oh yeah, this is a good game. I'd forgotten about this one. What do I need to do? I don't know how many of these. Do I need to try and get into the tube or something? Oh, silly of me. Do I stop them from getting into the... Oh, if you don't get to them in time, they turn into blue ones, and then they become proper scary. And do I get hurt if they go in there? No, they just come out the top again. Ah, so I just need to clear them. I don't think I've actually played Super Mario Bros. That many times, so... Whoop! He's a bit eager now, isn't he? Okay. Didn't work very well. God, it's really annoying trying to jump through that. I think they've taken the sound directly from Mario Brothers, actually. Or gotcha. This isn't a bad game, actually. The only annoying thing about it is that it has quite a there's quite a annoying just the gap between the platforms is just that little bit. Oh yeah, there's something. It's the collision boxes are a little bit strange. I'll give this one more go. This ain't a bad game. I've forgotten about this one. It must have been right up on the edge of, because I'm guessing it needed 512 K of chip available. So for it to not run in an emulation, it must have been a very marginal. I know. Oh no, I don't think I do. I was about to say I think I've got an extra drive enabled, but I don't think I do. Let me check actually. No, I don't have an extra drive enabled, so it's not even that can account for it, because you would occasionally, with the Amiga, need to remove any external drives, because they had a tiny little bit of buffers allocated to them, and that could be enough to tip over some games. Take this. No, that'll turn him around so we can go. Oh, yeah, I thought I'd get caught there. The jump mechanics are quite interesting, actually. There's a ghosty. I don't know how many of those I've got, but I mean, there's no danger of anyone accusing them of ripping off the actual Mario character, because that ain't Mario. But oh, Luigi! That little bit of travel you get when you jump is really annoying. Never really played. This is probably the only time I've really played a Mario Brothers style game, as in the original concept of Mario Brothers. Yeah, that collision box on that first one is really annoying. This is not a bad game. I would say check this out. Oh, bonus round. This is not a bad game. I mean, if you put this together with the Amiga Format Classic Arcade game arcade pack, you've got a quality little set of games there. I'm beginning to think I might. And this, I mean, the other interesting thing about this, it said it was made for. Oh, they need two, I think. 2 bumps, and they turned to flattened. It was saying that it was made for Amiga format, so maybe this is them trying to get around the commercial game. I mean, blimey, the commercial game requirement. Blimey, messed that one up. God, this is tough. This is tough now. If I get to the end of the sentence, I'll say maybe this is them. Oh God, it's difficult. Yeah, them trying to get around the restrictions that Elsper, whoever it was, put on to prevent them releasing commercial games on the magazine. Because this is quite a decent standard game, and it's up there with a. I mean, it is Mario Brothers, and I would say that the quality of it is on a par with a commercial Nintendo release. Could have done with backgrounds. There should have been. Oh, that was silly. I'm going to give this one more go. This is a good game. This is a really good game. I might even do this on a live show tonight. do with the controls being having a tiny bit less inertia on them. I was thinking that skull and crossbones was going to cause me a problem, but obviously it doesn't. Yeah, there's a slightly annoying way. I don't know how well that compares to Mario Brothers, but it's got a slightly annoying way of calculating the. Yeah, oh, that is a little bit annoying. Calculating the inertia on the jumps. I'm playing this for much longer than I thought I would. I had forgotten about this game. And at the time I probably didn't realise it was even a Mario Brothers clan. Probably wasn't aware of Mario Brothers, but they didn't even advertise it. It's not even advertised on the label, so I guess this is something that was prepared. It just says other great things. Other great utilities, so this might have appeared late in the day. Or maybe it was prepared for the arcade special. Maybe that's why the arcade special seems I don't want to say light, but it doesn't seem to have. I mean, this would have been a real headliner. This piece of software, if they'd. Oh, it gives you 100 points. That would have been a real headlining piece of software if it was on there. It seems to have sort of been just slipped on. There was a time when they were saying they'd pay you so many £100 if you produced a piece of software for their release. Because this is, I mean, the quality of this game. This is, yeah, I didn't quite like that. This is much more like a kind of your Sinclair type, like a Spectrum or C64 type game. Magazine game where they could get some quite quality original games made just for a magazine title. Well, that was a surprise. That wasn't too bad. I'm glad I got that working in the end. So let's have a look at what else we got on here. So PixSaver is a screen grabber, I think. So what use that would be? Let's have a look at the documents. What is PixSaver? PixSaver is a little utility that allows you to take snapshots. How does it work? Type PixSaver and return. There's no need to use run, run back, a run, etc. PixSaver is auto-detaching when run from the CLI. It won't prevent you from closing the CLI window. Workbench, double click the PixSaver. Oh. To remove PixSaver, simply run it again. Alright, so it goes resident. Interesting. I remember using this to grab workbench pictures, so yeah, what it's saying is that if you try and run this application, it doesn't tie up the CLI that you're running it in, because what would happen with some applications is that they would run as a task within that CLI, and you wouldn't get the command line back. It would just sit there until you quit. But this goes resident, and that's cool. Left shift and control. Well, I can. And I mean, press the left alt key and the left key. Hold them down. So you had to explain. Interesting. They said you had to explain what buttons you had to press. Open a window. Expect the name of the file. Alright, okay, let's give this a try. This is an interesting utility. I remember using it. So it's left alt, left shift and control. Left alt, shift, control. Right. And you can frame something as well. So we can start PixSaver. Not much point doing it on here, but okay, so left shift, left. Oh dear. Ha. Okay. Right, well I'm not going to mess around trying to get that to work. Interesting that it crashed though. Very interesting. Okay. Let's start virus checker then. Again, I mean I can see the reason of running that from here, because you could have a session where you just put the disk in and see what happens. Checking disk and DS. Yeah. This was my choice virus checker for a long time. Please check the name. Wow, this is a really early version of it. Because I think you used to get loads of menu options on this. Right. What we'll do is we'll take out this disk from DF1 and we'll deliberately put in a disk which might have a strange boot block and see what it says. Oh dear. Okay, I've put a disk that isn't even DOS, so this is the old problem of Workbench 1.3. If you put in any disk that has an unrecognized format, it would say, oh, use disk doctor, that'll fix it. Its structure is corrupt. Well, if you tried that on the game disk, you would ruin it. Okay, it has a non-standard boot code, which is great. Now what you could do is say, okay, yeah, I know it has a non-standard boot code, but learn that boot code because it's safe. Or you could remove it and it would replace it with a different boot block, a standard one, I guess. Sometimes you could have like an antivirus one that would come and say there's no virus on here, which some virus writers got their head around and started putting there's no virus on here have appear when you've got a virus. So this one is a boot block by Rob Northern because it uses Copylock. Oh, the disc did use Copylock, Stunt Car Racer, a cracked version. So right. So I guess the last thing to look at is System Info, which was a very interesting tool, and very, I think it was well timed to put this. I mean, this is a good disc. This is giving you some useful tools. These are 3 genuinely useful tools if you can get them to work. So the Picksaver utility is extremely useful for doing screen grabs. Virus Checker, an essential piece of software. Start capturing viruses on your system. And sysinfo, I think this is probably a very good time for them to put this on the on this disk, because it at that point Amigas were getting put together with all kinds of configurations, particularly Amiga 500s. So through the beginning of the sort of 91, probably end of 1990 through to 91, enhanced chipsets started getting bunged in random configurations into Amiga 500s. In fact, my understanding was that the Amiga was, at that point, a lot of the Amiga 500s that were being assembled were just randomly being put together from boxes of parts. So you could get any combination of the revision of motherboard or enhanced or original chipset. It was a complete potluck. So my Amiga 500, and I think I might even have a screenshot somewhere. I might have a screenshot of my system info report from my original Amiga 500. But as I recall, I think it had an enhanced. It had a Fat Agnes, not the Fat Agnes, because the Fat Agnes came in the 500 and supported up to 2 megs of chip. I think it had a Fat Agnes, so it was semi-enhanced chipset, and it had. Wow, this is a really basic version of sysinfo. This must have been the first version I had of this software. Okay. Right, so this is quite interesting. So what it would do, this program, keeping in mind that you've got a whole ton of combinations of Amiga, it would just tell you, for example, this is really useful, what type of Agnes you've got, what type of Denise chip you've got. No, I think my Agnes and Denise were both ECS ones. Um, the Amiga 500 Plus had the fatter Agnes. In fact, and I've even heard tales that the Amiga 500 Plus sometimes didn't come with the enhanced chipset. I've heard tales of it coming with all kinds of combinations of chips. I've heard a tale of Amiga of Amiga 500 Pluses coming with the Amiga 500 Plus case, but a 1.3 ROM installed in it. Um, I've heard tales of them and in theory, some of the motherboards didn't support 512K kickstarts out the box, so they must have had some quality control to try and avoid that. But yeah, sometimes the Amiga 500 Pluses came with a standard Amiga 500 labels on. I've heard tales of standard Amiga 500s coming with everything. Well, my one was almost 500 plus. It was before it came out, but it had everything, I guess, except for the fatter Agnes. So it was complete potluck. And a lot of people don't know there was actually a downgrade of the 500. I think there was a cost-reduced version that had less. It didn't have the same keyboard. So the original Amiga 500 had a beautiful mechanical keyboard. The later versions didn't, and I think it tends to be the ones with the red lights that have the mechanical keyboard. And there's a cost-reduced versions, and my one had the cost-reduced version. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit here, but you can see all kinds of information about the Kickstart version. These are all important things because there could be tiny revisions that could cause problems. And these are all software libraries anyway. But then you get a speed comparison and a comment on the rating. So mine's standard 500. It compares. These CPU calculations are always a tiny bit off, difficult to do. About the chips, number of floppy drives, do you have a bridge board in, blah blah blah, memory. I messed around with the memory when I was trying to get that Doody game running. That was pretty cool, that Doody game. I think we'll come back to that at some point. Chip RAM versus A3000. So these, it's a pretty strange comparison versus an XT. I guess that's really not a straightforward comparison, seeing as they're completely different instruction sets. I can manipulate this a little bit as I'm using WinUAE, so let's see what happens if we give it the full. So what I'm going to do is set it to emulate at the fastest speed possible. And run this again and see what speed it comes out with now. That hasn't made a huge. Oh, it hasn't changed the rating, and it hasn't. Oh, it's still looking at the same chip RAM speed. Ah, okay, because I don't have any fast RAM allocated to any fast RAM allocated to this machine. It's probably a bit holding it up a bit, so I've got it showing as 47.52 megahertz. Okay, right. So what I'll do is, if I switch it to a 030. And then I go RAM and we give it. I don't think this will show. Well, this might show on the fly actually. I don't think the Z2 will show. So right, I'm just going to do this. We'll try it on the fly first of all. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's crashed it straight away. Oh, in fact, it's crashed the whole machine. It's crashed the emulation. I'm still using a beta version here, so what I'm going to do is shut this down. If I can get it to shut down, please go away. We're going to do this as a running as a much expanded Amiga 4000E type setup, and let's see if this runs. Okay, well it runs, that's one thing. Okay, so it can't understand it, so it's, yeah, the rating just says error, so that must be a comment to say that can't be right. I think it normally, if it's really fast, it says motor rolling, but Agnes type unknown, Denise type normal, Interesting. I must have that set to normal somewhere. CPU 030. I wonder what it'll do if I... it shows the MMU as well, because it's the full 030 simulating. CPU speed 187.5 megahertz, which it calculates as being 3 times fast, or nearly 4 times faster than the 3000. Should be significantly more. So I know we improved its timings down the line. Oh, hang on, that's interesting. Workbench version just says NA4. Interesting. I might be using the I might be using the Amiga 4. I might be using the Amiga 4000 Tower ROM, which I think doesn't have the Workbench library built in. Not impossible, so it might be why it's not finding that. Okay, so let me... it's not finding that library. Let me just... what I'm going to do, I'm going to reset it. Now I've got it set to use a 060. I'm just wondering what it will see, or if it'll even... it might fall over. I'm quite impressed it ran this setup though. Okay, now it's seeing it's 200 times faster. Yeah, the speeds have all stepped up 65 times. CPU speed looks like it's maxed at 300. It probably doesn't support above that. But what CPU does it see? Oh, and it's seeing it as a 040 because the 040 was the only one that was available. That was just about available, I guess, at that time. And he probably had never seen one. It was probably just he knew what the spec was on it, so he knew how to identify it. But it's showing up as a 040 when it's actually a 060. It's emulating. Floppy drives 4, hard drive partitions 2. Oh, I don't... oh yeah, that's right. That's the right amount of memory. That's okay. That's cool. I was about to say, I thought it was not able to cope with the amount of memory. RAM speed versus chip speed. Let's see if we can trigger some of the other... oh, hang on, it's not even set to fastest possible emulation. That's interesting. Let's try it again. It's taking it a while. It should be, I guess, fairly constant the amount of time it takes, because I guess it's counting how many instructions, how many cycles are completed when during a set period of time. I don't think we're ever going to get this back. I reckon it's done so many it's overflowed a buffer somewhere. Because I guess in theory it has to allocate a space in memory to do a operation, then it counts how many times it does it in a certain period of time, which is not as easy as it sounds. But if you fill the amount of memory and there's nothing to stop it overflowing, then you could potentially lock up the system, and I think it's doing it again. I might need to back it off. Let's have a look. If I change it to... okay, so let's change it. Let's do it with something a bit more moderate. So I'm just going to make it slightly faster than the original Amiga. 500, so let's see what it says. Still thinks it's too fast. Yeah, it's still showing ridiculously fast speeds. Okay, well, we'll just back that off a little bit. We just go like that. Okay. Run it again. Okay, CPU speed now 200. Okay, it's interesting. So if we just... okay, if I bump it down a bit more, let's see what happens. Let me try this. If I set it to 020. Interesting if it can spot hardware changes on the fly, actually. I'd like to see that. Which it isn't, but it is seeing the speed change. That's interesting because it's not coded to go for over 100 megahertz. It's not actually rewriting that that space there. It's just okay. Oh, well, at least we're into wows. We've slowed it down enough for it to be credible. Let's try. I've just pulled it down a little bit more. The comments used to be quite funny in that rating. Right, yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's good. Left button to exit. And we've done Amiga Format Coverdisk 31. That Doody is a really good game. That is a really good game. So I'd definitely say check that out. That's a forgotten classic. Don't hear people talk about that one. I'm going to load it up again just to see who coded it. Hopefully it will load on this setup. No, it crashes this setup. Not compatible with 020s, so... Andy and Andy. WGSS production for Amiga Format. Right, let's get it right here. So, coding by Andy Clark, graphics by Andy Noble, music by Phil Brown. Great, good job lads. Well done. And on that note, I am going to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please don't forget to subscribe and make sure you've got that notification button so you know when I've got new videos up and when I'm going to be doing live streams. And if you didn't like it, hit the down button. Down it, because that's all good. The interaction's good. Please, please, please. Anyway, I'm starting to yawn a bit here. It's a bit silly, really, in a video, because I could just cut this out if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Goodbye.